doing that. Welcome back to the Candray Institute Sterile Processing 101. Our last few sessions together. I'm not gonna cry, I promise. Let me make sure I have the notes ready for us. Open that. All right, perfect. Good evening, good evening. As y'all can see, I'm back where the Wi-Fi was acting a little crazy. However, we are having a lot of storms in Southern Illinois. We're under tornado watch this evening, so all the libraries and stuff are closed. Hello. So we're just gonna cross our fingers that it act right, because it wasn't acting right. And if it gets too hairy, then I'll just see y'all on Monday, okay? Y'all getting them down there too? Child, this tornado season has already been crazy the last month alone. Hold on to your hats, as they say. Okay. Couple housekeeping things. Let me go grab that Google form real quick. And then we're going to get right into chapter 20 and then see what we can get through as far as 21 and 22 today. If y'all can, go ahead and drop in the chat where you are in the reading and flashcards for me. It's that. I just click on share link, shorten URL. You gotta move. No worries. Hey, Chrisette. Was missing you. Okay, y'all. So I'm dropping in the chat a Google form survey. I would ask you to fill out if you could for me. It's not mandatory in any way, shape, or form. But I put together a survey of the class to get you guys' feedback on how everything has gone, what information you may want to see for a future class. I am pitching this business in a small business development center contest where we have access to some grant funds for seed money for our businesses. And so I thought it might be nice to include information from you all that are actively taking the class about the value of it and where we might see it go in the future. So I dropped that link in the chat. Please feel free to fill it out. If you don't want to fill it out, no pressure. I totally understand. I see Brienne chapter 22 in the reading and done with flashcards. Yay, awesome. And then last housekeeping thing, if you all could go ahead and I know you guys have done this already, but I've lost them in the sea of DMs on TikTok. If you could send me your email addresses so that I make sure that I maintain access to these links for you guys. That light is like because I'm not going to keep my course up, for free forever, but I want to make sure that you all have access to it while you guys are catching up, because I know not everybody is on chapter 20 right now. All right, so I want to make sure that y'all maintain access. So if you've been in the free class, go ahead and tonight, if you can, or before we leave, DM me your email address. Okay. All right. And your first and last names for your certificates of completion too, if you guys can. All right. Chapter 20. Okay, I see you. Chapter 14, chapter 18. Okay, cool. All right. So tonight we're going to go over 20. On our last class, we went over 19. Let me click on that. We won't be sharing no lives, friends. And then I have notes prepared for 21 and 22. I need to get them uploaded on the website for y'all, so I'll do that directly after class. But today we're going to start with 20 and then see what we can get through for the other two. And then I do have links set up for the next couple of lives. We are almost done with the chapters. We go through 24. So we'll have a few more sessions together. And then I figure it'd probably be good to do like a review quiz session if you all want it. You know, it's your class. If you don't want it, we don't have to do it. But I thought it might be good to do at least one more that's like a comprehensive chapter review kind of quiz session to get you ready for the exam. Okay. And I would really love it if you guys, I see my nose is itching today. I would really love it if you guys would be able to share your screens as well. So I might set it up like as a Google Meet and we can do flashcards and stuff together. Yeah. All right, Brienne. Cool. We got at least one person down. Okay. So chapter 20, let me share my screen so y'all have notes up. Folks on TikTok, if y'all want to see the notes, head over to the YouTube. The link is in the bio. Where's my... There it is. Okay. Share. Okay. Anybody else getting the storms today? I know one person in the class said, Brianne says she getting them down in Texas. With Southern Illinois, we getting our tooties whooped. All right. Depending on where y'all are, also please engage with the live, like, share, follow, tap the screen wherever you are. I appreciate the interaction and the engagement. Okay, so Sterile Processing 101, we are getting into chapter 20 of the HSPA Technical Manual, 8th edition. I know most of you guys are reading from 9th. I also encourage you guys as you are reading. I know I say it every class, but I say it because I still don't see no questions. Maybe that just means I'm teaching it that good. But as you guys are reading the 9th edition, if there's stuff that's coming up that I haven't covered or questions that you have, please don't hesitate to ask. That's the beauty of having access to me live. And y'all also are more than welcome to send emails offline, okay? All right, so chapter 20 goes over the role of central service in the ancillary department support. And if you was here with us last Monday, you know that ancillary is another word to talk about the departments that are outside of the sterile processing department. Oftentimes, they can also be considered departments that are outside of traditional patient care. So that might be things like procedure rooms, emergency rooms, anywhere where a patient might be seen but isn't necessarily like a med surg floor or a surgical suite or somewhere where patients are going to be staying long term. Okay, so from a patient side, you guys might be aware there's a lot of procedures that we do at the bedside or in rooms that don't require the patients to be, in the operating room. Okay, so anywhere that a sterile process and pack can go is going to be considered an ancillary service department for you. The objective of chapter 20 is by the end of this chapter, you guys should be able to define ancillary departments and their relationship to central service, remembering that central service is another term for sterile processing. You're going to be able to identify the key departments that are supported by central service, explain the role of sterile processing in supply distribution, discuss sterile processing requirements for endoscopy, labor and delivery, emergency, and other hospital units. Okay, so we're going to get into some really common units that SPD is going to be dealing with. Explain the importance of communication and collaboration between central service and ancillary departments, and identify common challenges in ancillary departments to support and their strategies to address them. Okay, so again, I know we're getting towards the end of this book, y'all. Okay, we're almost there. So a lot of this, again, is redundant and repetitive. However, what I want to keep reminding you all is to pay attention to the vocabulary. Make sure you're making flashcards for these vocabulary words. And as we get towards the end of the chapters, not only should you be having things that are vocabulary words, but put some of these systems definitions on there, okay? So you might have like an endoscopy definition because it came up earlier in the chapter, but for chapter or in the textbook, but for chapter 20 specifically, you would want to make an endoscopy card in relation to ancillary services, if that makes sense. Okay. Just I want to make sure that you understand the relationship between SPD or central service and all of these outside departments. Okay. So, central services role in supporting ancillary departments. You guys are going to provide clean and sterile instruments for non-surgical procedures. When they say non-surgical, it doesn't mean that they're not cutting the body open. These are still surgical. These are still going to be aseptic procedures, but they're not. We consider them non-surgical because these are folks that are not getting put under anesthesia. Okay, they are not in a surgical suite under that type of observation. You're going to ensure proper inventory management for ancillary departments. We talked about that heavy on Monday, but it's going to be incumbent upon you as an SPD tech to make sure that your ancillary departments are stocked properly for the procedures that they need to be able to do. Some of that stock is going to live in their utility rooms. Some of that stock might live in your sterile storage, but regardless of where it lives, you need to know how much they have and how much they need. All right. And then lastly, you guys are going to be maintaining high level disinfection for reusable medical devices. And this is going to be mostly focusing on flexible scopes. So think about any type of time, maybe they're in the ENT department and they have to get a laryngoscope done. They're seeing anesthesia and they're using the laryngoscope on them. Or maybe they're doing some type of trach type of scope where they're looking down their throat. We have bronchoscopes that go all the way down into the lungs. We have colonoscopes that come all the way through the intestinal system. Okay, and a lot of times this observation is being done in procedural areas. You all will be responsible for maintaining the high level disinfection for those products. So what are these top key ancillary departments that you guys are all going to run into? This is not an exhaustive list. This is just what are the top ones we're going to deal with in a sterile processing environment. Number one is going to be endoscopy. So this requires sterilized and high-level disinfected endoscopes. You're also going to be utilizing automated endoscope reprocessors for proper cleaning and disinfection if your hospital has that equipment. If your hospital does not have an AER, then all that means is you're going to be reverting back to your manual methods of cleaning flexible endoscopes. And just like cleaning any and all other surgical instrumentation, you will be following the instructions for use on how to clean that instrumentation. For labor and delivery, you guys are going to be required to sterilize obstetric instruments and sets. You're going to need to properly process forceps, scissors, and retractors. And the reason why I put that note in there specifically, because you have to do that for every surgical area, right? Regardless, you got to make sure that the instruments get processed correctly, that the scissors are sharp, retractors aren't nicked, everything that is needed is there for the kit. But in specific for labor and delivery, you got to think about what's happening there. Most of the time, they're calling you for C-section trays and they're calling you for hysterectomy trays. If you've never had to deal with either one of those situations, let me tell you, from a surgical perspective, they're almost always emergent, meaning they need it now, urgent, I need it now. And it almost always is dealing with a lot of bleeding, right? We're talking about childbirth. So a lot of bleeding, a lot of large clamps to clamp off these blood vessels. So you need to make sure that your labor and delivery equipment is working properly, that you have the proper stock, and that department, it has everything that they need so that they're not trying to rush and get something from you and you 2 or 3 floors away from them. Same thing for the emergency department. You guys are going to be using sterile trays for trauma cases and minor surgical procedures. The emergency department and the labor and the delivery department are more likely to have kits very similar to the type of kits you build for the operating room. They also may have, specifically your labor and delivery unit, may have their own operating rooms up in that space, right? Specifically for C-sections. So those might look more like your hard covered, we saw those metal containers that we lock, we put the surgical tray into and we lock, or you may be still wrapping in that blue wrap, but you may see larger sets for them versus like ICU or endoscopy radiology. Those may be either smaller kits or peel packs where you're using single instruments, okay? So just something to note. Usually, emergency room department, they require a quick turnaround of their instruments because of their high patient volumes. Same thing for labor and delivery. You would not, typically in these departments, they're expecting within 24 hours you have their, or less, honestly, or less, that you have their instruments returned back to them. It's not a situation where I can receive instruments from the ER on Monday and then I get them back to them on Thursday. That would be an absolute no-no. Okay. Another key point about that is communication, because you want to make sure you're communicating between shifts where you are with reprocessing ancillary departments. Then intensive care unit, the ICU requires sterile suction catheters, respiratory devices, and monitoring equipment. For all of these ancillary departments, there may also be sterile consumable goods that you guys are buying and stocking on those floors. They also might have single pill pack surgical instruments that you buy from a third party company instead of you being the only one that's making up these pill packs. So it may be a mix of instruments that you reprocess downstairs in the SPD and instruments that you bring in from the loading dock. All right. Intensive care unit, they utilize a lot of single-use instruments as well as reusable sterile supplies. And that's true for all ancillary departments. And then lastly, a very common one is radiology and interventional cardiology. They're going to use sterile catheters and guide wire systems. A lot of that will be products that get purchased that you are making sure they have in stock. Okay, so going back a couple of classes ago, we talked about monitoring systems for inventory. It may be that you go to these ancillary departments once per shift and you check the stock and you come back and you bring things over for them. Okay, so, but you're always going to have some level of responsibility, whether it's for the surgical instruments and supplies or just the surgical instruments, and making sure that they have what they need available before their patients come through the door. Last thing I want to say about ancillary departments, specifically radiology, interventional radiology, and endoscopy. If you guys do not have their instruments ready for them before their patients come in, their patients cannot be seen. It's just that simple. So that's another reason why they very much want to see their instruments back on the shelf the same day as close as possible, because they want to know that everything that they need for their patients that are coming in is there. And keep in mind, most hospital systems are servicing miles around them, right? Some people might drive 90 minutes to get to a special procedure. I don't want to drive an hour and a half to get to my interventional radiology appointment and find out that the kit wasn't done in SPD. And now I have to come back. Okay. Right? So it's really important that you guys stay on top of your workload. Okay, section 3, we're looking at supply, distribution, and logistics. A little bit of this is good. Y'all saw my flicker. Y'all heard my thunder. If we go, I'll see y'all on Monday, okay? We under a tornado watch. Supply, distribution, and logistics. If you were in the last class, we talked a bit about all of this, so I'm not going to belabor it. I'm just going to read the notes. Distribution methods. These are requisition-based distribution systems, requisition-based distribution systems. Requisitions is just a fancy word for somebody calling you and asking you for something, or for you having a manual method for figuring out that somebody needs something. That might be them calling the department and saying, hi, this is Alessandra from ICU. I need some 32 centimeter guide wires restocked in my department. Thank you. That might be your requisition system. It might be a computer ordering system where they go in and they send an order down to the SPD and they say, we need these things. Or it might be you coming over and manually checking. Par level stocking, that's your supplies are being replenished automatically. It can be automated or manual. So they should not have to be calling me, because I continuously monitor that and I make sure that it's good to go. And then the last one that we talked about on Monday was exchange carts. And these are fully stocked carts that we rotate on a daily basis or a by-use basis. Exchange carts that most people are familiar with are things like crash carts, where we keep everything that a doctor or a nurse may need involved in a patient coding on the cart. All they have to do is grab the cart, go to the patient, open up these locked drawers, and get active. Okay, so you guys will be responsible in I would say some departments now, because again, it's starting to separate from materials management. But That's one of the more common ones. We also see things like Foley cath carts, where they have all these different sizes of Foley catheters available for the patients to have urine. I'm trying to think of nice words to say to put that, but to have their urine catheters placed on in urology department or on the procedure floors. Okay, and then of course we are making these products, these sterile products, to deliver to the surgical department and to our ancillary partners. We're also purchasing sterile products to have available to deliver to these ancillary departments and our surgical partners. What happens if we have a challenge in supplying something? Okay, so next we're going to look at challenges in supply distribution, because it's going to happen. Whether it's I don't have the pack ready in SPD, or the order got delayed and it's not coming in yet, it's going to happen. So how do we deal with that? First one I have on there is delays in restocking. So delays in restocking can affect patient care. It's another reason why I keep on pushing. You're responsible for your job. You guys will find that there's a lot of free time in your department where nobody's watching you. The expectation is that you monitor yourself and understand that when you clock in, you agree to get work done. Do that, please. Your patients are counting on you. They don't know that they're counting on you. They think that they're counting on the lab coat and the nurse that they see. They don't understand that there's a whole team of healthcare workers behind them, but you do. Okay, so make sure you get to your areas, check the restocks, make sure it gets done. Don't leave it for the next shift, goofy stuff like that. It can affect patient care. You wouldn't want to be the patient that the nurse goes to the storeroom to grab something and it's not there. You don't want to be that person. So don't do it to somebody else. Miscommunication. There could be miscommunication leading to incorrect supply deliveries. That could be something as simple as somebody calling you and giving you the wrong name for something, and now you done dropped off a product that they don't need, and they still need the product that they did need. Clear communication is something that you will train on in your hospital systems. I mean, I kid you not, I've trained people on how to answer the phone, okay? Because I don't just assume that you know how to say, hello, this is Alessandra, you've reached SPD, how can I help you? Because I've seen people say, what? Okay, in a healthcare setting. All right, so miscommunications can happen. We want to have a way that we log that if we can. Remember, monitoring for quality, and that we're addressing those issues, especially if they're reoccurring issues. And then the last one I have up here is the overuse of hoarding of supplies. Make no bones, there's going to be many departments that call for things they do not need so that they can keep them in a cubby somewhere, so that if they need it, they have it. Also, a lot of times I find that happens when they have horror stories where they were calling for something that they needed and we couldn't find it, and they don't want to go through that situation again. So now they start tucking stuff off. It's a problem, one, fiscally speaking, because that means as a healthcare system, we're not being fiscally responsible. We're not having good stewardship. We're buying more than we need. We're keeping stuff and not using it past the expiration dates because Susie done tucked it off in her drawer somewhere, right? Also, it means that stuff is not available to the departments that needs it. So we want to caution against overuse and also of hoarding of supplies. It may or may not ever affect you as an SPD tech. It may become something that you have to be more concerned about if you guys decide to move up into the leadership space, because then it's your responsibility to know where your inventory is at all times. And I have definitely raided nurses' offices before to find my stuff. They weren't happy with me, but I found my stuff. All right. So communication and collaboration with ancillary departments. It can't always be feisty like that, where I'm going, hi, I'm just coming to check to see if you have any instruments that need to be returned to SPD, right? So we have to have communication pathways in place, that the communication between the sterile processing department and the ancillary departments is professional and respectful and as joyful as possible, because they are as stressed up there as y'all are wherever you are at SPD, okay? So we want to make sure our communication is effective. So the first note I have up there is the importance of effective communication. The importance of it is that it reduces error in supply distribution and it improves patient care outcomes. What are some methods of communication between us and these outside departments? One may be daily huddles or meetings between these sterile processing or central service department and then the department leaders of these ancillary departments. Okay, so it might look like every day a lead tech from SPD goes to a an ER staff huddle and gets information on what instrumentation they need. Or it might look like a SPD supervisor is attending those meetings, or SPD manager is attending those meetings. Or maybe we have once a month, we have a meeting where those ancillary departments come and talk to us about what they need. Electronic tracking systems. So we're going to get into that a little more in the next chapter, but electronic tracking systems are those barcode systems we talked about where just like at a grocery store, these surgical instrument sets will have barcodes. We scan them. We can look in the computer and see it's on shelf A in the emergency room or it's in the sterile storage unit 1. And another factor with those electronic tracking systems is that they will have functions for people to send you notes or to put information into the system that gets delivered to you, similar to how an email might work. So that's another way to improve electronic communication between you and ancillary departments. And then the last one I have up here is standardized procedures and checklists to streamline requests, right? So we talked about maybe having some checklists where that maybe you come up to the department and you check their inventory, or they have somebody in the department that check their inventory and they send the list down to you and tell you what they need. All right, common challenges in ancillary department support. One, and this is across whether it's surgery or ancillary departments, a common challenge we have with supporting our outside partners is equipment availability issues. We might have limited availability of specialized instruments, and we might need quick reprocessing for critical items, right? So we talked about sometimes they can't wait for us. We have to do immediate use sterilization practices in order to get things back to the operating room quickly because they don't have time to go through an hour in decontamination and to go through another hour and a half in sterilization. Their patient situation is critical. Another challenge is training and communication gaps. Staff in ancillary departments may lack training on proper instrument handling. I said may, but the truth is staff in ancillary departments will lack training on how to properly handle surgical instruments. I promise you, you will never find a department that is fully competent on how to handle wiping their instruments down, making sure that their instruments are put into the soil utility room. That being said, we do not allow for that ignorance either. That will be a time we want to communicate with those department heads and let them know that, hey, we need to have a conversation about how we're handling our soil utility. It may mean that your leadership is doing constant training, some sort. I've built PDFs. I've built, PowerPoints for them. I've trained departments. So it's not something that you necessarily want to allow for, but you will run into it. Central service provides in-services and educations to improve compliance because I don't want to imply that this is only a communication issue on the side of the ancillary departments. I've also had issues internally in the SPD department where maybe that ancillary department is getting new surgical equipment that they haven't had to deal with before. And so they're not really sure how to do it. They might lose a piece, right? So we want to make sure that we are doing in-service and education on both sides. And then lastly, I'm talking about emergency situation and demand surges. High demand for supplies during mass casualty incidents is an example of where this can happen. I've also seen this happen just in general with births, where maybe we have a few women that are giving birth on our OB floor, and then there's 2 or 3 more that come in on the ambulance. It may look like mass casualty incidents where you have multiple patients coming in with the same type of wounds. It may look like mass illness outbreaks where maybe like the flu is running rampant through your town and now everybody's coming in and needing certain procedures done. Okay, so there's times where things fluctuate. In the healthcare system, we have all types of superstitions about when and why our patients go up or go down. But you will find that there are some pretty predictable spaces in time where you can see patients increase, like the full moon thing is pretty much it is a thing. We do oftentimes see more people come in. You will see, like, for instance, around holidays, you might see upticks in your operating room lap appies. And the reason being is because a lot of people are eating a lot of sweets or eating a lot more food than they normally eat. And so they have gastrointestinal issues and they come to the emergency room and they have to come to the operating room. So stuff you might not think about from the outside, you'll see it in the schedule in the healthcare system. Another one we have is when people get their benefits turned on for insurance. A lot of times when we see their deductibles reset, you'll see an increase in patients. Woo! Okay, y'all, our storm is coming. Best practices for supporting ancillary departments. Again, I know I belabor this by saying that every SPD department will be different, but just some general tips on how you can make sure that you're supporting them the most effective way. One, maintain open communication. I've said it a few times throughout this chapter, but don't allow for your ancillary departments to be off and away from you and you never pick up the phone or you never send them an email. It can happen. I've had departments where you find out because they hired somebody new that goes through their storeroom that nobody's talked to them people for years. Okay, so maintain open communication so that you can identify what those department specific needs are for them. Standardize their inventory levels for each department. And if it's at all possible, standardize the inventory levels across all of your ancillary departments. For instance, one of the things that I will do in the management space, if I can, is if I can get them to switch over to disposable like pill packs for single-use instruments, I'll try to get all of the departments to do it so I can keep more stocked in the materials department. More is on hand, then we can just keep them supplied and we don't have to worry about it. But if nothing else, you just want to make sure that you know what they need over there and that you are getting it back to them when they give it to you. And then providing training to ancillary staff on proper handling and sterile supplies. And then lastly, implementing tracking systems. If your hospital system hasn't done this, it's always a good opportunity because it reduces waste and supply shortages because you get better tracking of where your instruments are at any given time. All right. I appreciate y'all engaging with the content. I thank y'all for liking the live and liking the YouTube live. I see y'all. I see it going on my screen. Okay, so chapter 20. Let's get into these review questions. So my YouTubers, good. Y'all know I tell you, get your fingers ready because I'm not in here by myself. Which department requires sterilized or high-level disinfected endoscopes? Is that A, emergency department, B, labor and delivery, C, endoscopy, or D, radiology? What y'all got, Tiki-Taki? I see a C. All right. So, Brienne, yes, endoscopy. The endoscopy department requires endoscopes. Another term for endoscopes is flexible scopes. So you guys might want to do like a slash on your flashcards for that, just so you don't get tripped up by them saying endoscopy where you see flexible scopes, okay? An endoscope is a flexible scope. Number 2, what is a major challenge in supply distribution processes? Is it A, overstocking supplies, B, miscommunication leading to incorrect deliveries, C, limited hospital space, or D, none of the above? Okay, Brienne said B. Brienne finna carry you YouTube. She finna carry YouTube. The answer is B. Miscommunications. They leading to incorrect deliveries is very common in ancillary departments. Sometimes what you will find, especially for you guys, because you're going to be coming into the hospital system new, or you're learning all this medical terminology and it's going to be fresh for you. What you will find is people will call down to the SB department and they truly do not know what the name of the thing is that they're calling for. So you will learn over time how to decode what it is they want, whether it's by talking about what it's being used for or talking about what it looks like or where they usually find it at. But it happens. Miscommunication leading to incorrect deliveries is a common major challenge in supply distribution. Number 3, why is communication between central service and ancillary departments important? Is it A, to ensure patient safety? Is it B, because it improves workflow and efficiency? C, it helps reduce errors in supply distribution? Or D, all of the above? What you got, Brienne? I see y'all TikTok. Brienne said D, all the above? Absolutely. I see D on TikTok. Yes, y'all got it. All of the above. So if we can make sure that our communication is efficient and effective, it's going to affect making sure that our patients are safe, that our workflows are efficient, and that we reduce errors in supply distribution to the best of our ability. We're going to make mistakes, but to the best of our ability. Number 4, which method helps departments to automatically replenish their stock levels? Is it requisition-based distribution, A? Is it B, exchange carts? Is it C, par level stocking, or D, manual stock checks? This is a little bit of a spillover from Monday too. So don't feel bad if y'all don't know the answer, but we talked about it. C, par level stocking, says Brienne. What y'all got, TikTok? C, I see you, Ron. Welcome in. Yes, par level stocking. Par level stocking means I maintain an automatic replenishment. Nobody has to call me. I come, I check, I see I'm supposed to have 6. I only see 4. I'm going to the department. I'm getting 2, and now it has 6. And I go back home. Okay. Par level stocking. Number 5. What is the primary role of central service in labor and delivery? Is it A, to provide diagnostic imaging equipment, B, to sterilize instruments for obstetric procedures, C, to manage patient records, or D, none of the above? Rom said B, to sterilize for obstetric procedures. What y'all talking about, Tiki Taki? Let me say, I ain't know that. That's all right. That is all right. B all day long. The primary role of sterile processing in labor delivery is to sterilize instruments for obstetric procedures. Absolutely. And then the last one, oh no, that's the last one for 20. Oh, yay. All right. So we got, what do we got? We got about 20, a little over 20 minutes left. So we'll probably get through 21. And then for Monday, we'll hit 22. After that, we only have 2 more chapters left, guys. Okay. So we'll do, we'll go through 21 now. We'll do 22 and 23 Monday. My plan will be 24 on Wednesday if all things go according to schedule. And then we would meet at least one more time to do a chapter, or do a class overview for y'all. Do some flashcards and all that good stuff and practice and get ready for the exam. Also, I know I said it at the beginning of the class, but I see some more people have hopped in. Send me your email if you've been participating in the free class for a while now. You didn't have to start at the beginning, but if you've been with me for a while now, send me your email so that I have your address at the top, because I have a ton of them and I want to make sure that I got the right people for the class. Because when you guys wrap up, I'll be taking those links down and only y'all will have access to them, so y'all can have that to study from until you get ready to take your CRCST. Okay. So do that for me today if you can. And if you scroll up to the top of the chat, there was a Google form that was dropped. That is a survey of the class. If you would, I would appreciate your feedback and as much information as y'all can share with me to help develop this class for future folks. Okay, so chapter 21. Looking at 21. Thank you, Brienne. I appreciate it. Chapter 21, we're talking about the role of information technology in central service. By the end of this chapter, you guys should be able to define the role of information technology in central service, identify different types of IT systems used in sterile processing, explain how IT inventory tracking, sterilization documentation, and regulatory compliance gets done with IT, discuss the benefits of electronic tracking systems, barcoding, and RFID technology, describe the role of IT in workflow automation and quality assurance, and understand cybersecurity and data protection measures in healthcare IT systems. This is also a space where I want to just stop and give a little caveat about IT specifically in the sterile processing space. I know I've talked about the fact that, so you guys are preparing for HSPA CRCST exam. That makes y'all certified registered central service technicians, okay? Whether it's provisional or you get the full out with your 400 hours of externship, you guys will be officially qualified to take any entry-level role in sterile processing, okay? If you are looking to move up at all, HSPA offers several additional certifications you can get. I know I've said it before, but I'm going to just hit this caveat because I know there's new people in the room. I highly suggest that once you take this CRCST exam, you immediately start studying for either the certified healthcare leader or the certified instrument specialist. Because once you get a role and you start to learn how to identify surgical instruments, it should take you no time to pass that exam. It is almost all CRCST questions, the last test you just took, and then instrument identification that you should be up to date on if you're working in the field. And then the other one, the certified healthcare leader, you can think of it like a business 101 class where it's training you about human resources, about managing staff, doing scheduling, things of this nature. It's basic information, okay? What that does, whether you want to use them or not, what that does is it gives you multiple certifications, which should increase your value to your hospital system. Most of them will pay you a little bit more for each one you get. But check on that, because if they not, then I'm not, don't waste your money. But if you want to move up, utilizing CIS or CHL will allow you to move into leadership positions like lead techs or sterile core coordinators. Also, specifically with IT, there are a lot more new positions being built for SPD techs that know how to utilize IT and utilize tracking systems. Okay. Brienne said, what was the last one you mentioned? Is that the certifications? So HSPA offers a certified healthcare leader or CHL, CIS or certified instrument specialist. And then the last one they offer is CER, and that's certified endoscope reprocessor. Now that one, the reason why I didn't mention that one as far as the first two immediate ones to grab is because with CER, you need to be somewhere where you're on the floor and you're able to access flexible scopes, or that you set up an externship with a surgical department or one of those colonoscopy departments that offers you an opportunity to handle flexible scopes, because you have to have hours under your belt cleaning those to get certified. Yes, HSPA is accredited. That's Healthcare Sterile Processing Association. You can go to myhspa.org and check that out. Okay, so last thing, since people are asking questions about that, not only is HSPA accredited, but this CRC certification is international. So it's internationally recognized sterile processing certification, meaning that you could take this and work in other countries in a sterile processing role with this certification as well. Okay, and then the last thing I want to say specifically about IT is from that perspective of moving up. If you have a bachelor's degree of any type, any background, that's one. A bachelor's degree with your CRCST is going to automatically qualify you for supervisor level positions and up. Okay, if you have anything specific to IT, again, this space that we see with AI and with instrument tracking is really starting to blow up. So hospitals are starting to create new positions to manage their electronic tracking systems. Okay, so I just want to give y'all that heads up, because I don't know where y'all at. You know, some of my staff members have master's degrees, bachelor's degrees. You know, some of them just had high school, or not just, but some of them had high school diploma. So depending on where you at and what you got, you can absolutely create a career for yourself in SPD. Okay. All right. So getting into 21. Introduction to information technology and central service. Information technology is the use of digital systems, software, and networks to manage and store information. IT is used in central service to track, document, and monitor sterile processing activities. When I started in SPD in 2009, everything we did was on paper. If we wanted to track our sterilizer records, we had to do that manually. What went in the washer? Manual record. What got sent to the operating room? Manual record. Nowadays, most departments are up on some type of electronic system where these things are getting scanned. So I'm able to log into a software and look and see where my instruments are at any given time. Question from TikTok said, do you have videos up on YT for us that came in late and that want to catch up? Yes, I do. If you go to the link in the bio and you go to the YouTube, click on the live section, and you will find this class, the first, what are we on, y'all? 17? You'll find 1 through 17 over there. If you are interested in joining this, because this is about to wrap up, and this was a free class I did through Hillman Talk, but I'm not closing it until they're done. So if you are interested in taking the free class, what you will need to do is send me an email with your contact information in it. Let me know when you have purchased your HSPA 9th edition technical manual. And if you show me those two things, I will allow you to maintain access to this free class. Otherwise, when this gets shut down, I'll be doing my regular services. We'll have another cohort coming up in May. All right. Okay. So what's the importance of IT in central service? It's just like communication. It improves and enhances efficiency and accuracy in instrument tracking and sterilization documentation. because there's an electronic form that's guiding you and prompting you and not allowing you to move forward. So you can't, you can't make a human error forgetting the lot number because it won't let you close the record until you put the lot number in there from your PCD pack, right? So that's one of the benefits of it. It ensures compliance with regulatory standards, such as those from Amy and the Joint Commission. I cannot tell you how many times I've had a Joint Commission surveyor come to my department and they ask me for some type of record and I'm able to easily get it to them because I'm able to look it up in my software system. I also cannot tell you how many times I've been embarrassed because I go to look in my electronic system and I see that something that's supposed to be there is not there, right? So it requires that the human that is using it uses it effectively and monitors it, but it does help us stay in compliance. Lastly, it improves patient safety by ensuring proper processing and tracking of medical instruments. One of my favorite parts about tracking systems is when you build your surgical instrument inventory into the system, you are telling the system what it is, you're telling it what type of sterilization parameters it's supposed to have, where is it supposed to be stored, what type of chemicals can be used on it, right? So if somebody gets it somewhere and they don't know, they can go in and scan it and look that information up. But also, let's say I wasn't paying attention and I put it on the sterilizer rack for steam sterilization, but this is supposed to be going into a low temp sterilization. When I scan it to build my record in the system, it's going to alert and tell me that this one don't go here. Okay, so it helps make sure that you guys aren't making any mistakes. You gonna buy your books? All right, get into it, friend. That's exactly what they did. They could tell you in February they went out and bought their 9th edition books, and I've offered everything to them for free. So if you put that investment in yourself, then I will absolutely love for you to be a part of this cohort class. This was my pilot program, so get in here. I want to see y'all win. Okay. IT systems that are used in sterile processing. Instrument tracking systems. I've said it 1,000 times. So that's one. That's one of our IT systems. And these are instrument use, sterilization, and storage locations. Lost and misplaced instruments and improve efficiency in sterile processing work. They're not a magic wand. You have to scan the things to the place. If you put the instrument on the shelf and you don't scan it that it's there and you walk off, the computer system don't know. So when I go look it up, it's going to tell me, oh, the last place it was at was in sterilizer number 21. And that was 5 days ago. Well, I know it's not still in there, but where is it now? Right? So I still might have to play detective, but as long as you utilize the system, it will help prevent lost and misplaced items. Sterilization documentation systems. So sterilization documentation system, this is a digital record of sterilization cycles, and that's going to include all of your regulatory complied information. That's the time you started the machine, how long the machine is running, what temperature is it at, what pressures did it hit, what instrumentation is inside of it. All of that is required, whether it's manual or electronically tracked. So the beauty of a IT system is it will prompt you and do that for you. It ensures accurate record keeping for compliance audit and patient safety measures. It also does a fantastic job of helping you have data trends. So if you want to be monitoring your department to see how often am I sterilizing my major tray, maybe I utilize that information to get more of them because I can show them that I have 6 and I'm sterilizing them 300 times a month. Maybe we might want to get a few more, prolong the life. Okay. They also ensure accurate record keeping for compliance. I think I repeated that. Excuse me. Inventory management systems. These are the software-based ones that are used to automated supply tracking, ordering, and restocking. So very similar to that. How do we say it up here? Instrument tracking system being a software-based tool that we use to track our own surgical instruments. An inventory management system is going to be a software used to automate the supply tracking and ordering of the supplies for the hospital. So this is where I talked about there may be different requisition systems. Maybe you call the materials management department and put an order in. Maybe you go onto a software system and you put an order in. Okay. Maybe they come through with a software system on a handheld and put an order in. It might look very different depending on what facility you're in. The beauty of them are they reduce the risk of overstocking, they reduce the risk of stock outs, and they reduce the risk of anything being lost or hoarded in the department because you're keeping track of it on that electronic system. Benefits of electronic tracking systems. Barcoding and radio frequency identification. RFID as a term will show up on your test. I promise you. Okay. It might come up a couple times. RFID trackers, we use those in the hospital system to keep track of physical materials. It could be patient care pumps. It could be sometimes just carts, push carts, because it's all fun and games when every department orders push carts for themselves, but cart somewhere, you think you're going to get it when you come back. It's not there. Okay, it's gone. Utilize those trackers and we put them on our equipment so that we can find it. What it allows you to do is go into a software tracking system and see the current location of that radio frequency ID device. Barcoding. I've talked about it quite a bit, but barcoding is a machine readable label that we use to track instruments and supplies throughout the sterile processing cycle. Barcodes may be put on the container that the instruments go in. We also have some that are getting etched onto surgical instruments themselves. So barcodes can be really tiny these days. They might even be those little matrix dots that we are accustomed to seeing, like when we go to scan our cameras. So there's a heavy use of barcoding and RFID chipping in the surgical department. Automation. They reduce the need for manual record keeping, lowering human error. That also, all those hours saved allows you to take that SPD technician and let them do something else. Okay, more efficient. It speeds up processes such as instrument assembly, sterilization, and distribution, because you don't have to do what I had to do. You don't have to get your tray, put it on the table, go to the file cabinet, find the file, get the sheet out, take it back to your desk, then do the thing. You can be at most of the days, these times, your sterile processing work desk has a computer attached to it. So you get your instrument set to your table, you have a scanner right there, you scan the barcode, count sheet appears on the screen, and you just start clicking because it's there. Quality assurance and compliance. It ensures consistent sterilization tracking for audits and regulatory inspections. And it makes sure that you can recall instruments if you need to. If for some reason you find out after you've released surgical instruments that somewhere in your process there's been a defect, the sterilizer parameters weren't met, maybe your biological control test has come back and it's positive, and that's a no-no. Maybe you find out that the washer was out of detergent, and so the instruments are being recalled. If you're utilizing a electronic tracking system for your instruments, you will be able to go within that system and select that sterilizer load or that washer load, press recall, and have an alert be sent out to your ancillary departments, your other sterile processing sections, to start pulling that stuff back to the department. All right. So let's talk about cybersecurity and data protection, because just like all other software that we use on every other computer, these software systems are subject to being hacked, to having data breaches. All right, so the importance of data security in healthcare. Cybersecurity is the practice of protecting digital systems from unauthorized access, hacking, and data theft. You guys can easily go onto the Google and look up data breaches for healthcare systems. It's happening. Okay, when you come into the hospital, they're going to give you a lot of training and education on cybersecurity, how to look for phishing emails, how to make sure you don't open the hospital up to being hacked. But that being said, you want to make sure that you are following proper policy when you're in the hospital system. Okay, you only taking patient information home. If you have a device that has healthcare system or software on it, it's going to be required to have password and be protected. So just being mindful of how you utilize your IT system. The cybersecurity systems in IT are going to protect sensitive patient health information and hospital records. Common cybersecurity threats are data breaches, which is that unauthorized access to sensitive information, and also phishing attacks, which are fraudulent attempts to passwords or financial data. And what that'll look like is they might send you an email. I mean, it looks like when you guys see it in your junk mail, they might send you an email and say you have a bill, click here to pay. And you click on it, and now they're able to download their software into your computer systems. Okay. Encryption. What are the ways that we protect ourselves and protect our patients? One is encryption. This converts data into secure formats to prevent unauthorized access. This will not most be something that you guys have to deal with, which you may want to be aware of for your exam, but it won't be necessarily something you're dealing with as an SPD tech. If you move up into the management levels, you might start seeing that. Multi-factor authentication. This is when require you to have more than one method to verify yourself. You might see this with your hospital email, where they'll require you to have a second way to verify that it's you that's logging in. Regular system updates. Computers will shut down for an update. So IT might be sending to make sure that there's no vulnerabilities and to prevent. One, I'll issue you guys out a little chapter exam because I see I didn't do that for this one. And then we've only got 5 minutes left in class today. Did y'all want me to start 22 or should I just wait until Monday to start 22? Y'all let me know. Or any questions for me before I let y'all go? Okay, so when we come back on Monday at 4:45, we'll be going over chapter 22 and probably get through 23. That'll leave us with one more chapter for class, and then that final class will be that all content review. I'll put these notes up. Letitia said, wait. I'm waiting. I ain't went nowhere. I'll put these notes up on the website as soon as I leave. So for the folks on TikTok, make sure you go click the link in the bio, follow the YouTube, follow the website. Class notes are on the website, and the past lives are in the live section on YouTube. What you got, Letitia? How do I email you? I've got my books. Let me see. If you send me a DM with your email address in it, I will reply back with my email address. So we have it, okay? Then you can let me know when you get it. And definitely for you, go to the website and look in the file share section. There's going to be some documents there for you to download so that you are aware of the requirements for HSPA certification. Also, you will find all the past class notes there. Okay, we're going to hold on that. We're not doing that today. All right, y'all. Well, then, if y'all don't have any other questions for me, I'm going to say what I always say. Review those flashcards, take them with you. Make sure you're sinking that vocabulary in. Do your best to catch up on content because I want to make sure that you have, when you have access to me, you know, you have your questions ready. If you have stuff you want to ask. I know that or at least I'm assuming that the 9th edition isn't that much different, but like I said, I haven't seen no questions come through yet about anything that's in the 9th edition that I haven't covered. Hi, Patricia. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Follow the link in the bio. All right, ladies. Then we will go over chapter 2 on Monday. Let me say that. Any questions for me, y'all? I know some of y'all are getting closer to taking the exam. I would encourage you to as well. I know I said it to the new people that's coming in on TikTok, but I would encourage you as well to review that HSPA documentation to get yourself familiar with what you need for your exam. Also, if you haven't done so already, I would highly suggest you start contacting facilities to secure your externship hours, because I would also say that if you're not ready to do your externship and do your 400 hours, I would wait to take my test, because once you take your exam, you get a provisional certificate, and that will put you in a window of time as far as when you need to get that 400 hours done. And if you don't get it done in time, you will have to retest. Okay. I will see y'all Monday. Who was that down there in Texas? Brianne, stay safe. We got category 3, 4, and 5 coming through for the next couple of days. Y'all take care.